This is video 1 for beginning violin and viola players. In this video, we're going to learn how to take your music stand out. We're going to learn the parts of the instrument. So I need you to make sure you have all the supplies that you need for today. First, you need your music stand, you need your instrument, and you need your essential elements for strings book. Now, the first thing I want you to do is find your stand. Now, your music stand, if you already know how to do this, you may fast forward through the video. The music stand might right now be in a rectangular box, okay, a long rectangular box. If that is, take it out of the box, and it might also have a bag. So then we take it out of the bag. Now, several of the stands will be different than this. Some of them are silver. If they're silver, it's probably in 2, possibly 3 different pieces. If it's black, it's very likely just in one piece like this. And yours might work a little bit differently, but it's the same basic concept, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is to set the legs up. Now the legs are down here. This works just like a tripod. So you're gonna unscrew just a little bit, just enough to where it loosens it. If you unscrew it all the way, the screw's gonna fall out, and then you're gonna have a problem. So open it up to, don't put it really, really narrow like this, because then your stand's gonna fall down. Put it a little bit wider, like this, and then tighten it back up. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we're going to the right here. Now I'm going to loosen this one because I'm going to raise it higher. And you probably want to put your stand as tall as it will go, unless you're really little. If you're really short, you might not want to put it that tall. There's usually 2 different bars to raise it up. So I have another one to raise it even further. And now my stand can touch the ground. This is as tall as my stand will go. If yours goes taller than that, great. What I would suggest is that this part right here goes just a little bit below your shoulder, okay? Now, this is the part we're gonna put our music on, but we gotta flip it around first. Now yours might be flipped forward, just depends on how it was put in the case. And the way this one works is I push the button in, and then this allows this to move freely. And I have to keep holding it in while I move it up. Okay, now we don't want it straight up and down like this. If we have it straight up and down like that, your music's gonna fall. We have to have it at a little bit of an angle like that, okay? Now, here's where people gotta get things messed up. If you pull from the top here, you are very likely gonna get things all tangled up. So if you will just follow this, every time you open your stand and put it away, grab it by this fat part right here. Okay, not by the skinny ones up here. If you grab it by the fat part and pull it down, and the same thing, when you're putting it away, you push it up, you probably should be fine. And when you push it up to put it away, see how these are going in? They need to go in, not up. Again, that could cause it to get kind of tangled up, all right? So, in this way, down, and grab by the fat part always, and you shouldn't have any problem, all right? Now, the next thing I want you to do is take out your book. First, you need to make sure you have the correct book. So, violins, actually all of you make sure that it's orange at the top, because there are some that are very similar. There's one that has purple at the top and one that's green at the top. This is book 1, should be orange at the top right here. And then this is very, very important. Look right here where it says the name of the instrument. Make sure it says violin if you're a violin player and viola if you're a viola player, okay? Now, since your book is probably brand new, it's not gonna stay open very well. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to hold like this and find where the middle is. That's where it kind of naturally opens. Open it up, crease it backwards. And you might wanna do that a couple of other places as well. And that'll help it stay open on your stand. Now once you've done that, I want you to open up to page number 2 and put your book on your stand. We're looking at the parts of the instrument today. We're not going to look at the parts of the bow, just the parts of the instrument. Now before we can take our instrument out, we need to know just one of the parts so you know how to hold your instrument. I want you to go down, the first one says scroll, then pegs, peg, bob, nut, fingerboard, and neck. I want you to find neck, okay? Now the neck of your instrument is going to be this part right here. Don't take your instrument out just yet. I'm going to show you in a minute. This part right here, that's how I want you to hold your instrument and how I want you to pull it out of the case. Don't pull it up like this. Don't pull by this or anything else. So that's very important. So now put your instrument on a flat surface somewhere, ideally a flat hard surface, not like your bed or something. I have it on a coffee table. A piano bench works very well, or an end table. If it's a large end table, that would work also, or the floor. If that's the only hard surface you can find, that's fine as well. Now, you might notice there's a skinny part and a fat part. Some of you have a completely rectangular case. That's just a different kind of case, but most of yours are going to look pretty much like this, okay? So what I want you to do, if you're putting on a table on the floor, put the skinny part by your left leg and the fat part by your right leg, and then the handle facing towards your belly, okay? Now you probably have a little Velcro flap. You might also right here have a little latch. Unlatch that. Make sure it's down flat on the table or the floor. Unzip. Lift up. You very likely have one of these fancy little blankets here. That's just to help protect your instrument while it's in the case. Just put that to the side, and with your left hand, grab the instrument by the neck and hold it here. Okay? Again, the neck is this area right here. Now I want you to point to each part of the instrument as I call it out. The very first thing at the very top is called the scroll. The scroll is just this part right here. Serves no other purpose other than to look pretty. They had to finish off the instrument somehow, so they decided to make this fancy little design. The next thing down are the pegs. There are 4 of them, 1 for each string that you have. This is one of the ways that we tune our instrument, but only when it's really out of tune, and I don't want you to use these yet. You're not going to use these for a really long time. Right now, only adults that know how to play these instruments should be using these, okay? The pegs go inside the peg box. Can you look in there and you see how the strings are wrapped around the peg? So 1 string is assigned to each peg, all right? Now, the next thing down is this little tiny black piece of wood. Now, you see this big long piece of wood right here. Let's skip down a couple. That is called, let's skip down 1 actually, that's called the fingerboard. That's where we're going to put our fingers. But the one right above the fingerboard is this black piece of wood that goes this direction. It looks almost like it's a part of it, but it's actually a separate piece of wood, and it's called the nut. It holds the strings up on this end. Okay, so we've got scroll, pegs, peg box, nut, fingerboard, and neck so far, okay? Now, the next thing down is called the upper bout. It actually is on both sides. It just points to it on one side. The upper bout, not boat, bout, and then the C bout right here. And this is not labeled there, but this is actually the lower bout. No one ever really talks about that part very much. That's why it's not labeled, I suppose. The thing below the C bout, there are 2 of these, 1 on each side. These little holes right here, they're called the F holes. Now the F holes do 2 things. They kind of allow your instrument to wiggle a little bit more, but really what happens is that the hollow part in here acts as an amplifier, and this is where the sound comes out. It comes out the F holes. Why they're shaped like that? Partly to look pretty, part of its function. And so these right here, they look more like S's than F's, don't they? But they're the fancy F. You might see the little notch right there as well. These are the F holes. Now, right next to the F holes right here is the bridge. This part right here is called the bridge. Now the bridge is holds up the strings on this end. The nut holds the strings up on this end. We have bridge and nut holding the strings up off of the fingerboard. Okay? Now, you might need to flip your instrument around. I want you to look inside the F holes. You're probably going to need to look in the hole that's on this side. So the hole that doesn't have this on it, on that side, okay? I want you to look inside there. You should see a little stick inside. That is called the sound post. That also helps, the function is to help the sound. It helps the top plate wiggles, helps the back plate wiggle, and it helps amplify our sound as well. Now, if you ever pick up your instrument and something's rolling around in there, peek in there and make sure the sound post is still up. If it's not, you gotta take it to the shop, they reset it. Something important to know, many of the things on your instrument are not glued, okay? So if something falls off, don't assume that you should just glue it back together, because I've had students ruin instruments that way. Sometimes it's actually their dads that ruin the instrument that way and not the student. But, for example, the sound post is one of those things. The bridge is something else. If the bridge falls down, don't have your dad glue it on there, or your mom, or you, or your older brother or sister. No glue, bad. Take it to the shop and they'll take care of it for you, okay? After the sound post, we now have these fine tuners. Now yours, there are 4 of them, one again for each string. Yours might be silver, and that's okay. They're just a little bit different. So we have tuning up here with the pegs if it's really out of tune, and fine tuning if it's a little bit out of tune. You're actually going to learn how to use these fairly soon. Within the first couple of weeks of school, you're going to learn how to use these fine tuners. For many of you, if your fine tuners are black, they are actually connected to the next part. This right here is called the tailpiece. This long, Y-shaped piece of wood, or aluminum in some cases, is called the tailpiece. Then next we have the chin rest. Now I kind of wish this was called the jaw rest, because really you're not going to put your chin on it so much as you're going to be putting your jaw on it. We'll learn about that in video number 2. The final thing we have is the end button. Now this is not like a button, you press a button and it makes music. If that was the case, your lesson would be done. You don't know how to play the violin, you just press a button. It doesn't work that way. This is a button like a shirt button. It holds things together. If this falls off or comes out, everything falls off. Okay, so don't mess with that. Don't pick at that. Don't be like, oh, I wonder if I can get that out. You probably can't, but you might be able to, and if you do, bad news. Okay, so just leave that alone right there. Okay, so what you need to do now is you need to kind of review all of these parts. What I would suggest is that you kind of find a part on your picture, point to it, find another part, point to it, and then see if you can name them without using the book. Because it is very important that you know these parts of the instrument, because I might be giving you a lesson that say, make sure you're playing close to the bridge or further away from the bridge, or make sure that your jaw is on your chin rest. You need to know the terms so that I can communicate with you. So that's your very first assignment, is to learn the parts of your instrument.